J. Cole just dropped Album of the Decade with his long-awaited album, The Falloff, and today for you guys, I'm going to be doing a full review of the features, the production, and a full track list review, and we're going to see where this ranks in J. Cole's discography. Starting off with this 29, I feel like this is the part of the album that has most of, like, the bangers on it, where he was trying to get you hooked onto the album and get people moving while listening to it, because you got some of the best bangers on here, like 2-6, Safety, and Who the F Is You. But we're going to move straight on to the features to start this tune. Starting off with Future on Run a Train, I feel like this is the best Future feature on this album. I mean, obviously he has two, both on disc 29. But in this feature, you can really hear the passion in his voice, the, do you know about Jermaine? Like, it just gets you hooked onto the song. I feel like Future was very well placed on this song. And it's a very, very solid chorus. I think it really introduced J. Cole going into this song very well. But again, I think this is the best that Future did on this album. Now, Legacy with PJ. I feel like PJ wasn't like the standout or the main part of this song, but it was a very solid feature. Him and J. Cole harmonizing at the end was a very good way to end this song and move on to Bunts Road Blues. But again, this was a very good way to end the song. The harmonizing was great, the melodic performance. And I feel like even like the lyrical performances throughout this feature were very solid. And it kept me like hooked on the song. It's not like a feature that I would just skip and go to the next song on. All right, now moving on to Bunts Road Blues with Future and Tens. This, again, as I said before, I think Run a Train is the best Future did on this album. But this feature was still very solid. I don't quite like it as much as Run a Train, but it was a very good feature. Again, he has, like, you could say, like, the hook on this song, and it was very, very solid. He matched the vibe of the song very well with the Alchemist production. But I do think that him and J. Cole got outperformed by Tens on this song. Her melodic performance is amazing, easily the best feature on the album. It definitely keeps you hooked on the song, and her and J. Cole and Future all on the same song on Alchemist production made for an absolute masterpiece. Definitely one of the best songs on the album, and Tens had the best feature. Alright, so that's it for the features. So now we're going to be moving on to the production. I definitely think that disc 29 is better produced than disc 39, but both of them are very solid, but personally, I think Who the F Is You probably has the best production on this album. That beat switch is absolutely crazy. It keeps you hooked on the song. The song, I feel like it's a slight bit overrated, but the production is amazing, and it's one of the main parts of that song and why I personally love it so much. And then, obviously, the production that everybody was talking about on this album was on Bunts Road Blues with The Alchemist. This was definitely one of the best produced songs on the album, not quite the best, but I loved the production. The chill vibes matched very well with J. Cole's performance, and especially Tens. I think that synced very well with the song, and you really needed a song like that on this album to get a little, like, versatility in there. But 2-6 is the most popular song on this album and is definitely one of the best produced. That's a highlight for that song, I think, because I think that 2-6 is a slight bit overrated too. But again, just like Who the F Is You, I think that the production is one of the most important parts of that song. But Legacy, the production is very solid on that. Poor Thing, it's amazing. The Let Out it's a little bit weird production, I can't lie, but it's actually really good. I really enjoy that song. Drum and bass, the production was very good on there too, kind of similar to the production on Bunts Road Blues. But yeah, definitely a better produced disc than disc 39, and that's one of the things that made it stand out on the album. Moving on to specifically talking about the songs. So as I said before, this is the disc that has like more bangers on the album to get you going and moving on the album before moving into disc 39. Like 2-6 and Who the F Is You. 2-6 is the biggest song on the album, as I've said before. I do think it's a slight bit overrated, but I still love it. 2-6 referencing Fayetteville, where he grew up, which is basically the whole concept of this album. So it definitely matches the album very well. It was a great way to start the album. It definitely not disappointed with that track at all, just a slight bit overrated from what people are saying it is. But Safety. Another huge banger, one of the best rapping performances on the whole album. This is really, really what got me hooked on the album, is the rapping performance on this, and I was like, oh my gosh, are we gonna get more of this? And yes, in fact, we did. But Safety is really one of the biggest standouts on this album, and specifically disc 29. Running Train is a very solid song. I think it's not one of the best on disc 29 or even the whole album, obviously. But the Future feature was very solid, as I said before. I think it's the best verse Future had on the album. And J. Cole's rapping was very solid, too. I really enjoy that track, and I go back to that one a lot. Now moving on to Legacy and Poor Thing. These are two top 3 songs on the album for me personally. Poor Thing, people give its credit to, which obviously it deserves. But Legacy is super underrated. This is one of my favorite songs on the album, one of the best rapping performances. The feature was very solid. One thing that did stand out on that song was J. Cole's flow. That has one of the best flows on the album at the beginning of the song, and then the flow changes, and it's still amazing. But Poor Thing, I feel like, also has a very, very good rapping performance. Again, I said it was top 3 on the album with Legacy. But those are definitely 2 of my favorite songs on the album, and probably the 2 that I've been going back to the most, to be honest with you. I don't understand how Legacy is so underrated. People need to go back to that track more, because that is one of the best songs on the album. Now, Bunts Road Blues. I've kind of gone over this track a lot already, I feel like. I mean, the Alchemist production, the Thames feature, the Future feature. I feel like this is one of the songs that people were most hyped for on the album, just because of the features and the production and the producer, obviously. And it did not disappoint. This is probably top 5, top 7 at least on the album. Definitely one that I've been revisiting a lot. And then followed up by probably the biggest banger on the album, Who the F Is You, which I personally believe has the best production. That beat switch is insane. It just gets you up and moving. That one's going to go crazy at his tour. And that song still has great lyricism, I feel like. The one thing I don't like about that song is the chorus can get kind of repetitive at some point. But it's fine. It doesn't, ruin the song or anything. All right, now Drum and Bass and The Let Out. These are 2 songs that are kind of similar, I feel like. Drum and Bass having more of that chill vibe like Bunts Road Blues. And The Let Out is kind of chill too, but, it's got that very unique production, which I honestly like, though. But Drum and Bass has a very solid rapping performance. And then The Let Out has that very unique, melodic-ish sort of performance. But The Let Out was honestly one of my favorite songs off of first listen. I don't like it as much now, but I still think it's pretty underrated. People are very split on that song, but I'm one of the people who like it. But both of those songs are very solid, and I go back to those a lot. Right, now Bombs in the Ville / Hit the Gas and Lonely at the Top. Bombs in the Ville / Hit the Gas. The Bombs in the Ville portion of the song is not very good. I honestly thought it was going to be a mid-song at first, but it's not, horrible. But then the Hit the Gas part is very solid. The rapping performance on that is great, and I think it completely revives the song for me, which is the only reason I still listen to it. So it's definitely... I think it's one of the worst songs on the album, but it's not a bad song by any means. And then Lonely at the Top, the bonus track. This is a very solid song to get you ready for disc 39, because I feel like this is more matching the vibes of the second disc, which is fine because it's the last song of disc 29, and it's getting you ready to go into disc 39, what you can be expecting. And Lonely at the Top is probably one of the best concept songs on the album, with him, saying that he's sitting at the top of the mountain, but it just doesn't really matter because it doesn't feel the same, as he thought it would. And now let's move on to disc 39. Alright, now moving on to disc 39, I feel like this is where you get more the serious rapping, the more storytelling, maybe the more lyricism. This is shown on tracks like The Falloff Is Inevitable, Life Sentence, Man Up Above, I Love Her Again. That could be, part of why you could say that disc 39 is better than disc 29. It's kind of hard to decide because they're both very different. I don't think that takes away from the album, the fact that they're different, but it definitely makes it a lot harder to decide which one's better. So let's start off with the features. Alright, now starting off with the feature on the Villist. I don't really know how to pronounce it, and I'm not going to try. But this was a very good feature. This disc has more like melodic features than disc 2.9 did, and this was one of them. And I think this was a very solid feature. I think that the melodic part of the song went very well with the production, and I'm glad that they did have a melodic part on this song, to be honest, and it did not disappoint. And I think this was one of the more underrated features on the album. It wasn't like a standout, but I don't see people talking about it as much, and it's a very, very solid feature. Alright, now Petey Pablo on Old Dog. This feature is not the strongest. I don't think it's, like, horrible, but he had the hook on the song, and Old Dog is one of the, like, only bangers on disc 39, and the chorus was just not very strong. He's just repeating the same thing over and over again. And it's not, like, very good lyricism on it either. He's just talking about taking your shirt off and swinging it around, and it gets kind of repetitive at some point. But yeah, this is one of the weaker features on the album, but not quite the worst, because we have one more worst on disc 39, which is, Burna Boy on Only You. This feature was horrible. The lyricism that this guy put up is terrible. The flow was terrible, but I can't really blame him for it either, because J. Cole didn't perform on this song very well either. The production was terrible. This was the only skip I had on this album, to be honest, but part of that is because of the feature. Definitely the worst feature on the album, and not one I'm going back to. Alright, so there was a lot less features on disc 39 than disc 29, so we're moving straight on to the production, and now that I think about it, I said that Who the F Is You had the best production. I think it's probably 39 intro. You got so many beat switches, and that last beat switch that J. Cole starts rapping on is part of why the song is so good. But I don't want to go too much into this song right now, because when we do like the track by track for this disc, I want to talk about that more. But the production's definitely not quite as strong as disc 2.9, but it's not like, disc 2.9 production was supposed to be a highlight. The production isn't as important as it was supposed to be on disc 2.9 here. But the production is still very solid on songs like I Love You Again, What If. Old Dog, honestly, I don't like the production. It sounds like a beat made on GarageBand, to be honest with you. But J. Cole's rapping makes up for it, and I still like that song. But yeah, the production is not like the most memorable thing ever on this disc, but the track by track is where this disc is gonna get really good. Alright, so we're starting off this disc with a heater, 39 intro. This was definitely the best song on the album. The best song of 2026 so far. One of the best songs of the decade, and one of J. Cole's best songs he's ever made. One thing that's like, it doesn't take away from the song too much because the production's so good, but it is kind of drowned out at the beginning before you get the rapping, but I think it's fine because the production's amazing, and the way that J. Cole comes on it after the beat switch, it's just mind-blowing, and he has one of his best verses, one of the most memorable verses he's ever had of all time, and this is definitely the track that I'm probably going back to the most. Everyone's saying this is the best song, and it definitely is. And again, the best song of the year so far, and I don't think anything's gonna top it. Alright, other than 39 intro, I feel like the Falloff Is Inevitable is one of the most impressive songs on this album. Great lyricism, maybe the best storytelling on the album, with him rapping his life in reverse, which was kind of crazy. This was the lead single leading up to the album, and it definitely got me more hyped for the album, because it got me, like, thinking, what else can he do on this album, specifically on the storytelling part of it. But it definitely fit the concept of the album very well. Probably the best concept song on the album, and is it one of the best, like, concepts J. Cole's ever had on a song, like rapping his life in reverse? It's very, very impressive how he was able to do that, and he did it so well. You could argue this is one of the best songs in J. Cole's catalog. Alright, so now to the Villist. I was talking about how the storytelling on this disc was very strong, and this is one of those songs. It's talking about how, like, when he became famous, some of his friends left him because stuff happened in his childhood, and he wishes he didn't lose those friends. And it's talking about how, like, people, like, money can't buy happiness, which is, a popular concept that people use a lot, but I mean, it really makes it seem like the concept pops a lot on this song. I'll say that for a fact. And I really like that. He was talking about that and opening up really easily, and you can easily understand what this song is talking about. And that's what I love about J. Cole's music, is that you can easily see the message in the song and what he's trying to tell you. And this song does it in a very good way. Now moving on to Old Dog. This is like maybe the only like banger on disc 39, because this is more like conceptual based. But Old Dog wasn't a bad song. I like it and I go back to it, but the production was very corny. Again, as I said before, sounds like something you would make on GarageBand. The feature didn't stand out, but J. Cole's rapping performance was amazing, and that's probably why I still go back to this song. You could argue it's one of the best rapping performances on the album. But again, that's like one of the only reasons I'm going back to that song, though, and why I don't consider it a skip. Now, Life Sentence. This is another one of the bigger conceptually based songs, looking back on his childhood and kind of like the love he experienced before he blew up. And it's basically, like that, talking about the average, boy and girls falling in love stuff. But, it's a very detailed way of doing it, and him looking back on, when he fell in love in his childhood, when he grew up, what was going on, with him involving that stuff. And I really do like this song, and it's probably maybe one of the best, conceptual songs on this album. Now moving on to Only You with Burna Boy. So this is the only skip I have on this album. Is it crazy to say that this album only has one skip, even though it's 24 songs long? But the production is very weird with those, weird melodic, I don't know what you would call it in the background, but it's very annoying and weird, and it's just not fun to listen to. J. Cole's performance is not anything special, and the feature is terrible. Definitely the worst feature on the album. All that kind of just makes it a bad song, and the only skip on this album for me again. Alright, now Man Up Above. This is one of the strongest hooks on the album. I love the flow on the hook. I love the lyricism. And the concept of this song is basically talking about, how it was growing up in a dangerous neighborhood for him, sort of. And being an innocent child and not understanding everything in life, and how he grew up and realized that the world's not exactly what it seems. But this is arguably one of the best songs on the album. It's really hard to decide, but this probably is one of the best songs on the album, at least top 10 or 12. Alright, now on to I Love Her Again. So this song is basically talking about how he used to date this girl and she broke up with him and became, you go listen to this song and you can easily tell it. But he tries to, tell her to stop doing that stuff, and he starts arguing with her. And that's when the huge rapping performance comes in on this album. On this song, and it is amazing. One of the best lyrical performances on this album. It just gets you bobbing your head and going crazy. But, listen to the song to see what I was talking about that first part. What If is one of the most creative and one of the best concepts on the album. He's rapping from Biggie and Tupac's perspective, if they hadn't died, how they would be going with their music career. And I'm pretty sure he says they eventually become friends at some point, which, if they were still living today, it's not bad. But this concept is very, very strong, a very creative concept. And the rapping was amazing on it. This song was very, very solid. Alright, Quick Stop is a song where at the beginning he's reminiscing on his childhood. Well, not childhood, but teenage sort of years, when he would make music with his friends in the studio and just have fun. And then it transitions into this time where he met a fan at the gas station, and he was talking about how he got his tape at 13 years old, and people didn't respect J. Cole back then, but now they consider him one of the GOATs. And it's a great way for him to show his progression in his music career, and being one of the last songs on maybe his last album ever was a great placement for this song, I feel like. And The Whole World Is the Ville is another song where he's reminiscing on his time in Fayetteville, talking about, going to football games, going to the skating rink with his friends. But there's deeper stuff in this. It's just the stuff that I'm covering real quick right now. But this is a very strong lyrical performance. I love this song. I see some people saying this is one of the best songs on the album, though, which personally I don't think it is, but it is still a very solid song that I go back to. Ocean Way is basically a final goodbye to J. Cole's career, at least to the story of Jermaine. And it is a complete, like, reminiscing song of his whole rapping career. And this was, like, a perfect way to end, his trilogy, I feel like, his discography. Because it's a beautiful song, and you can just feel everything that he's putting into this song, talking about how he moved through his rapping career and where he is now. And how he feels at the end of it, and it's just great to see. And he said he's not done making music, but I feel like the Falloff is like the end of his story of music, and his new stuff will be, you know, like, I think it'll be good, but it'll just be like for fun and not telling the story about his rapping career. Okay, so now what this whole video has been leading up to, where does this rank in J. Cole's discography? After first listen, I thought this was his best, and I still think it very well could be. It's definitely, at minimum, top 3. This, you could have For Your Eyes Only in 2014 over it, I feel like, but I feel like this is either his first or second best album, I can't lie. When he said this was going to be the best music he ever put out, he was not lying, because this very well could be considered that. Great conceptual songs, great bangers, great lyricism, great rapping in general. Just an amazing album. Personally, what I think is album of the decade, that might be a hot take, but for me, 100% album of the decade, and one of J. Cole's best albums. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe and drop a like, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!